Formula One is a sport that runs on secrets. The data, engineering, design, and strategy all need to be on a need-to-know basis. That's why, when Ferrari used one of their filming days before the Spanish Grand Prix, rivals were keen to know what they learned. Did it help them to improve their cars even more? And how are they planning to recover the championship lead? Plus, what's the one thing that Red Bull intentionally left out of Sergio Perez's contract? Stay tuned, because all of that and more is coming right up. First up, smile for the camera. Apart from pre-season testing, each constructor in Formula One is given a couple of filming days. If you've seen advertisements featuring F1 cars, then this is when they get them done. The teams make sure to get nice close-ups, different angles, and enough material to make their sponsors happy. But there is another advantage to using one of these filming days. Engineers and analysts can gain valuable data about the performance of the car. Of course, the equipment they are allowed to use and the changes that they can make are limited, but it's still a good opportunity. And for Ferrari, this is exactly what they needed. After a disappointing race in Miami where Charles Leclerc lost to Max Verstappen, Ferrari needed a way to bounce back. The filming day before Spain would be a good advantage. The chassis operations manager at the team confirmed that the filming day was very helpful for choosing which setup to use in Spain. He said that it gave them confidence that they were on the right track. But once the race got underway in Barcelona, the car was a ticking time bomb. For the first time this season, Ferrari's engine blew out, and Leclerc was forced to retire the car. He was leading the race and set to finally beat Verstappen in a head-to-head battle. It was later diagnosed as a turbo failure, and team boss Mattia Binotto said that they would be taking the engine back to their factory to make sure the problem is fixed. After getting off to a sensational start this year, Ferrari is beginning to stumble. Next, Azerbaijan. They said that good things come in threes. Well, Charles Leclerc will be hoping that's the case for bad things too. In Spain, his engine failed. Then the next race at his home Grand Prix in Monaco, Ferrari blundered the strategy and he was relegated to a P4 finish. That was after winning pole position. And as it couldn't get any worse, in Baku 2 weeks later, he suffered another engine problem. Leclerc was in pole position once again, but was beaten to the first corner by Sergio Perez. Once again, it was from the lead of the race. He was on a different strategy to Verstappen, and they had just over 10 seconds between them. It was shaping up to be the Leclerc versus Verstappen battle that fans have been waiting for, but it still wasn't meant to be. After the DNF, Leclerc said that it hurt and acknowledged that it was significant for the championship. The Monegasque had watched his 46-point lead evaporate over the last 5 races, and he's hardly put a foot wrong. And with another Ferrari engine likely to be installed, Leclerc could be facing some tough penalties. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko said that it is inevitable that Leclerc will have to face a grid penalty at some point. But even without Leclerc's unlucky end, Marko said that Red Bull would have won anyway. He said that on Sunday, Red Bull had much more speed than Ferrari. Could Ferrari be falling behind their rivals in the development war? The prancing horses might have to wait until next year for their 16th championship. Coming up next, what did Sergio Perez say is not in his contract with Red Bull, and what did Jos Verstappen have to say about his son's performance in Azerbaijan? So don't go anywhere. Up next, stability. Ask any engineer in F1 and they'll tell you that it's reliability that wins championships. Both Red Bull and Ferrari have had reliability issues so far this season, which have cost them valuable points. But Mattia Binotto has said that he'd rather have it like this. He said, "I would rather prefer to have good performance and try to fix reliability rather than vice versa." What he means is that even though stability is a big issue right now, at least they have a competitive car. Binotto also said that the team needs to focus race by race rather than getting ahead of themselves. He knows that the pressure is on, especially because their number one driver Leclerc has proven himself capable of winning. Former driver Martin Brundle thinks that Leclerc must be getting frustrated by the number of lost wins by now. The driver-turned-commentator said that there are just too many mistakes from a top team like Ferrari, and they can't afford to make many more. And Ferrari may have more than just Red Bull to worry about if they don't get their act together. Mercedes team boss Toto Wolff has said that his teams are ready to capitalize on Ferrari's mistakes. Mercedes have so far failed to make much of an impact this season. At an Azerbaijan Grand Prix, they inherited P3 and P4 after Ferrari's double retirement. They did the same thing in Spain 2 races earlier too. And while Mercedes have had a bumpy ride trying to figure out their porpoising problems, they aren't that far behind Ferrari. Ferrari. Thanks in large part to George Russell's consistency, Mercedes are trailing Ferrari by just over 30 points. Plus, their reliability has been outstanding. Both drivers have finished every race so far. Now, a fiery bull. Max Verstappen is the reigning world champion this year. As a prodigy, he proved his talent long ago in Formula One, but last year he took it to a higher level and won his first world title. It ended in controversy, but Verstappen's season was outstanding, and with last year's championship rival Lewis Hamilton dropping out of contention, the path to a second title is a little easier. But for those thinking that Verstappen might get too comfortable, his father has some strong words. Jos Verstappen was frustrated by Red Bull's strategy in Monaco that ultimately gave Sergio Perez the win instead of Max. Max bounced back by winning the next race in Baku, and Jos says this is where his son really thrives. He said, "A challenged Max is an even better Max." Based on Max's record, it's hard to argue with him. Every time that Max has had a weaker car than Mercedes, he's always managed to achieve impressive wins. That's part of the reason that it's been so difficult to find a teammate for him. Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, and Alexander Albon all failed to deal with the pressure and perform anywhere close to Max. But with Sergio Perez, it looks like Red Bull have found a strong number 2. Both last year and this year, the Mexican has posted consistent results. He's also defended against the attacks of Mercedes and Ferrari to help Max win races. Red Bull couldn't ask for a better teammate right now. But with such a small margin between Max and Sergio in the standings, there is still time for things to get messy. There were signs of trouble when Perez complained about the unfair team orders of the Spanish Grand Prix that handed Max the win. Next, Checo. Sergio Perez is one of the most well-liked drivers on the grid, but he's also one of the most talented and competitive. That's why he backs himself to fight for the title this year. He also confirmed to the media that there is nothing stopping him from challenging Verstappen. After signing a 2-year contract extension, he said, "There is nothing in my contract that says I need to finish second." Perez went on to say that there was a good opportunity for him to win a world championship this year. This is good and bad for Red Bull. It's good that they have 2 competitive and world-class drivers, but it would become a headache in the future. The team had their fair share of conflict when Max Verstappen was partnered with Daniel Ricciardo, and they will be hoping to avoid that same situation. So far, it's been relatively calm, but the increased use of team orders and the instruction of no fighting in Azerbaijan could turn Perez into an unhappy employee. Christian Horner said that infrastructure wasn't strictly team orders, but purely because Verstappen had a significant pace advantage over Perez. If they were allowed to fight, then they would have worn out their tires and put both of their races at risk. But was he looking out for the team or Max? What do you think? Should Sergio Perez be giving the lead to Max Verstappen again in the future? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.